In the elite part of Lekki Phase 1 stood a majestic mansion. Its walls sparkled like polished ivory, and golden lion head statues guarded the front gates. The estate guards whispered about the owner like she was royalty. Her name was Morayo Tijani. She was Nigeria's youngest female billionaire. Smart, ruthless, powerful. CEO of MT Gold Holdings, a conglomerate stretching across real estate, oil, and tech. She had everything except a past. Nobody, not even her husband, knew where she came from. And that was exactly how she wanted it. For 3 long months, an old man sat outside her mansion gate, bare feet, weak, forgotten. His name was Baba Tijani, Morayo's biological father. He sat there, rain or shine, hunger twisting his guts like a rope. He never begged, he never shouted. He simply said to the security guards each morning, "I dey wait for my pikin," meaning I'm waiting for my child. They often laughed. "Baba, this no be your daughter house o. Madam Morayo no get papa," meaning this is not your child's house, and Madam, the owner of this house, does not have a father. Baba Tijani will just nod and reply, "She get. She just bury me before I kpai." Flashback. 7 years ago, Morayo was broke, desperate, mocked by her neighbors in Ibadan. Her mother had passed early. Her father, a poor cocoa farmer, struggled to feed her and her siblings. But Morayo wanted more. She left home for Lagos, and when the big city slammed doors in her face, she found herself in front of a notorious spiritualist in Ojuelegba named Iyaota. "I want to be rich," Morayo had declared. Iyaota looked into her eyes like coal. "You will be, if you give the one who gave birth to you." "Give up my papa," Morayo whispered. "The source must be dry for your river to flow." She was told never to help him, never to feed or shelter him. Even a cup of water will invite destruction. And worst of all, you must never carry life in your womb. The spirits own it now. If you do, the curse will awaken. Morayo agreed. She returned to Ibadan, lured Baba Tijani out for lunch at a local buka, a local restaurant, and secretly brought home his old pipe, a family heirloom. That night, Iyaota carried out her process with the pipe and gave it back to Morayo. The deal was sealed. Within weeks, Morayo's fortunes changed. Her businesses exploded. Investors. Please subscribe to this channel, turn on your notification bell, like, and comment. Thank you. Was lined up. Money rained like Hamatan dust. And Baba Tijani, he began to cough. He began to fade. Until one day, he left Ibadan and followed a spiritual tug that led him to Lekki. Present day, Morayo sat in a silk robe, scrolling through her iPad, sipping tea. Her husband, Tunde, a fashion photographer and soft-hearted romantic, walked in with a goofy grin. "Guess what, babe?" he said, holding something behind his back. "What now?" she sighed. Tunde revealed it, a pregnancy test. Positive. Morayo froze. She blinked like the air had choked her. "No, it can't be." Tunde laughed. "It's a miracle, babe. After 5 years of trying, we are pregnant." A voice, silent, cold, and ancient, whispered in her mind, "You have broken the covenant." The chandelier flickered. Her phone screen glitched. The window banged itself shut. Outside, Baba Tijani shivered suddenly. Though the sun was high, he looked up at the mansion and whispered, "Ah, she's pregnant, and the spirits have smelt it." Later that night, Morayo could not sleep. She walked barefoot across her gold tile floor to the guest room, opened the hidden cabinet. Inside was a black calabash, sealed for years. She touched it. It burnt her fingers. Suddenly, a text came in from an unknown number. "He's still waiting outside. How long will you ignore the root that made you?" She dropped the phone. The next morning, the media picked up the story. Who is the mysterious old man outside billionaire Morayo Tijani's mansion? Sources say he claims to be her long lost father. Is the Queen of Wealth hiding a dirty secret? Her PR team went into action. They panicked initially. Tunde asked questions, but Morayo only stared out the window, her hand unconsciously resting on her growing belly. The gate guard radioed Morayo nervously. "Madam, the old man dey vomit oh. Should we call the ambulance?" She gnashed her teeth. No, let him stay. But deep inside her, something had shifted. Something dark was awakening. Every night, she woke up sweating, whispering prayers she no longer believed in. The baby kicked at strange hours, always after 3 a.m. The lights in the nursery she had secretly set up would blink. A stuffed bear fell off the shelf each time she entered, and still, she said nothing to Tunde. Meanwhile, outside, Baba Tijani was deteriorating. His voice faded, but his eyes still burnt like coal. The guards avoided him now. Some swore they saw things near him at night. "Baba, they talk to spirits, oh," one whispered. "I hear am laugh with ordinary air," another added. The dogs in the mansion never barked at him. Instead, they whimpered. Then one morning, she rushed to the hospital. The tests were normal. The baby was fine. But the doctor, an elderly woman with piercing eyes, stared long at her and said softly, "This is not medical, Morayo. This is ancestral." Morayo's heart stopped. "What did you say?" The woman leaned closer. "Blood that cries from the ground does not keep quiet forever." Back at home, Tunde sat on the sofa, scrolling through photos from their wedding. He sighed. Morayo had become a shadow. She barely spoke. She barely smiled. But deep down, Tunde knew something wasn't right. So he did what no one expected. He went outside and approached the gate. "Baba, who are you?" The old man looked up slowly, his lips cracked, his fingers twitching. "I be her papa." Tunde's chest tightened. "Who's papa?" "Morayo. Na me born her. She wears riches like agbada, but her soul dey naked." Silence. The rain began to fall again. Tunde asked the question that had been bothering him for months. Is there something I should know?" Baba Tijani reached into his pocket and pulled out a faded photograph. It was Morayo, as a teenager, standing beside him in front of a mud house, her eyes full of innocence. "She gave me away for money," Baba whispered. Tunde's mouth dropped. But before he could ask anything else, the gate's lights flickered and a roaring wind swept through, knocking the photo from his hand. The wind whispered, "She is ours now." Inside the mansion, Tunde knelt before her, gripping her hands. "Please, tell me what's happening." Her lips trembled, tears streamed down her face. I did something years ago. I made a pact. I gave up everything, including my father." Tunde stared in disbelief. "What are you saying?" She swallowed hard. "I used my father for money rituals. Now, 7 years later, I'm pregnant, and my father had waited 3 months at my gate." Baba Tijani was weak. He hadn't eaten in 2 days, yet his eyes burnt brighter. And that morning, he coughed into his cloth. The wind stilled, the mansion gates unlocked themselves. No guard touched them, no wind blew them open. The gates just opened. Slowly, silently. Baba Tijani stood up. People gathered, phones came out. The crowd whispered, and then the arch shook slightly. Morayo screamed from her bedroom as a sharp pain struck her womb. Tunde, the baby, something is wrong. Tunde rushed her to the hospital. The doctor ran scans, panicked. The baby's heartbeat is fluctuating strangely. And look, this is not normal. Morayo fainted. Meanwhile, outside, Baba Tijani walked through the open gate. Slowly, step by step, no guard stopped him. No one could. He reached inside the mansion. He helped build with sweat and... Please subscribe to this channel, turn on your notification bell, like and comment. Thank you. Fatherly sacrifice, only to be forgotten. He stood in the living room, eyes scanning the walls, the gold, the luxury. He smiled, then collapsed. Later that night, in the hospital was silent. Morayo was stable, but the baby, gone. The doctor looked at Tunde with dread. We have to take her to the theater now. The electricity in the hospital flickered, lights blinked, machines beeped, doctors screamed. Then everything went still. Flatline. The baby gone, Morayo gone too. But the door to the theater creaked open on its own, and something or someone entered unseen. The hospital had never known such silence, not even during power outages, not even during protest. Tunde stood frozen, staring at her face, still streaked with tears. Baba Tijani came into the hospital and declared, Morayo, get up. You may have buried me with your greed, but my love was never buried. He touched her forehead. A great wind blew and suddenly, Morayo sneezed back to life. Machines beeped again. The flatline turned into a steady rhythm. Doctors rushed in. She's back. Her heartbeat is back. Tunde broke down. Oh, thank God. But 3 days later, Baba Tijani was laid to rest in a quiet village just outside Abeokuta. 1 year later, the Tijani mansion was sold. Morayo disappeared from public life. No more magazines. No more Forbes lists. She left Lagos and settled in Ilorin, where she opened a foundation for young women and widows abandoned by their families. She named it Ipin Ife, portion of love. Some wounds never fully heal, but some gates, once opened, eventually lead to grace.